to this session of Leading Residence Program series about the program of the United States, which is the EB-5 program. Happy to be here today. I'm Suad, and I'm an Associate Director, Private Clients in Canada. So it's 5 a.m. here this morning, and I'm very pleased to be here today with my colleague, Dmitro Cherniga. So Dmitro, I'll leave you the floor to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Suad. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So with this webinar, we're continuing the series of leading residence by investment programs. United States EB-5 is not the only webinar, so please stay tuned on and keep joining on the other webinars of the series. As Suad mentioned, my esteemed colleague from Montreal, there are two of us today. I will be presenting the requirements and how does the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Program work, while Suad will present Henley & Partners and give you some insight on wealth migration trends and some of our reports that we do and did during the last couple of years. So I think, Suad, you can start and then we can take over with the program requirements.
There we go. Let's go. So let's start with a brief introduction of Henley & Partners. I would like before to invite you, not hesitate to type in your questions. So throughout the whole webinar, you can, there's the Q&A button over there. So do not hesitate to write your questions, and then we'll take all the time at the end of the session to answer all your questions and hopefully for you to get all the information about the program. So for the ones who do not know Henley & Partners, we are the global leader in residence and citizenship by investment around the world. We have more than 60 offices, and we do assist clients with more than 40 investment migration options, so with more than 40 programs around the world. And we've been doing that for more than 25 years for now, and which makes more than 25,000 clients advised as well. If I go on with the introduction, actually beyond residency solutions, Henley & Partners, we do offer many other additional services as well, such as the real estate investment. As you might know, many governments require an investment of real estate, and this is why we have teams of real estate professionals in many, many countries to assist clients with their real estate purchases. We also have the education service, which is a tailored service for families for their kids. If you have kids that you want to send to college, to university, or to study abroad, we have this team that can assess your child's need, and then they can assist you in choosing the right institution for your children, and also help you with the whole process for the school. And as well, we have the concierge service where you can have many other very nice services to enhance your lifestyle. But in addition to that, actually, Henley & Partners, it's two different divisions. So there's the division of private clients, which we just mentioned earlier, but we also have the division of government advisory, meaning that when governments want to create their own migration by investment program, we help them to do so. So this is just to give you an idea of the expertise that we have in that field. And so far, we have facilitated more than 15 billion USD dollars in foreign direct investments. So this is being said in the next slide. EB-5, which is the program for the United States, is one of the many programs that we assist our clients with. As you see, these are the programs that we can assist you for a residence or a citizenship. As you see, we have in America, we have in the Caribbean, in Europe, in Asia, and in Australia as well. And our main goal actually is, first of all, to help you choose the right jurisdiction for you. So as you see, we're not restricted to one jurisdiction. So when we have clients, we like to know more about your needs, and then we will filter and we'll get into the right program for you. And then the other main goal, obviously, is to guide you through every step of the process until you get your residence or your citizenship. Then Helen Partners actually is also publications. So we spend a lot of resources and in our research and development work, and we regularly publish various reports. And what you see here is just a part of the wealth migration report that has been published lately. And what you see actually is the number of millionaires that have moved from one country to another and that have settled more than 6 months in the country. And here, as you see, the trend is very, very clear. Since 2013, the numbers keep increasing and increasing. Obviously, 2020 something happened there, right? So with COVID, which decreased a lot the number. However, we do see that now it's the tendency came back and it's increasing more and more. And in 2025, we are expecting a record, and we are expecting approximately 135,000 millionaires around the world who will be moving from one country in another. So now probably you're wondering, which country are these? Which countries are more having inbounds or outbounds? And this is where we can see here the top 10 country inflows in 2024. So the UAE, actually, it's for a third year that they had the most millionaires coming in to the country to settle in, with more than 6,700 people settling in the UAE. And it is followed by the USA with 3,800. So that explains why we are doing the seminar today, to give you information given the high demand for this country. And now you're probably wondering which countries are having the more outflows. And this is where we see that China is definitely the biggest one in 2024, followed by UK as well, and then India. And many of these millionaires, actually, they do choose the EB-5 program as their chosen destination. So let's speak about the passport. So now we're speaking about the residence program in the US, which will lead to a citizenship. And this is where it's interesting to see what is the ranking of the passports of the US, given that once you have the citizenship, obviously you can have this passport, which is a quite strong passport to have. So in 2024, it has been ranked the 8th, meaning that you have many, many, many destinations where you can go visa-free with this passport. So it's definitely a great tool to have in our hands, because it increases your mobility. So if we move in, so now we're getting to the main subject of our webinar today with the EB-5 program. And Dimitro, I leave you the floor for your to explain better the program. And again, do not forget to type in your questions, and we'll be happy to answer to them at the end.
Thank you, Swat. So now the most interesting and sometimes difficult part for some of the investors, but I will try to explain that it's not that difficult or complicated. It's actually a very simple program in terms of requirements. So for anyone who is new to the EB-5 program, that's the immigration pathway to the US that allows qualified investors and their families to obtain the US green card and eventually citizenship after 5 years of residing in the US. The program was originally designed and implemented by the US government back in 1990s, so more than 30 years ago. And the main goal of the program was to attract foreign capital and create jobs for the US workers, giving qualified investors the right to become a permanent resident as a return. So what benefits does EB-5 program give to investors and their families? A few obvious things, like the right to settle, live, work, study, do business in any of the 50 states of the US. As said before, that's a possibility to obtain a permanent residency, a green card, to get access to the range of top-tier schools and universities in the US. And our educational division is always happy to help your kids and children to find the right way for their education in the US. Investors can also apply together with their close family members, a spouse, and children who are under 21 years old and not married. Of course, the option to apply for US citizenship after 5 years of permanent residency, as said before. A few things about the new implications to the EB-5 program. EB-5 program was improved back in 2022 after the RIA, the Reform and Integrity Act, which was introduced by the authorities and signed by President Biden. And these Reform and Integrity Act introduced essential changes to the EB-5 program. This legislation was designed to increase transparency and investor protection. For example, it mandates greater oversight of regional centers, stricter fund management rules, establishes structured processing time. By addressing these concerns, the RIA has helped bring even more trust in EB-5, making it one of the most attractive and secure options for international investors. Over the past years, we've seen the heightened interest in the EB-5 program. The demand is due in part to the global environment, wars, economic shift, geopolitical factors, anything like that brings more demand to the EB-5 program. So briefly, a few words on the eligibility requirements. We will cover these requirements in more details in just a minute. But to qualify for the EB-5 program, investors must make a minimum investment of $800,000 into a project located in targeted employment area, or $1,050,000 in the project located in the non-target employment areas, and also create at least 10 full-time jobs for the US workers. This combination of investment with job creation makes EB-5 a unique program, as it directly supports US economy and provides reliable residency route for the investors. Of course, the funds must come from a 100% lawful and transparent source. The funds should also stay in the particular project for at least 2 years, but it is usually something in between 3 to 6 years. It really depends on the very specific project that's currently out there. So the regular question is where to invest. Let me tell you a few words about details on the investment requirements and where the actually money goes. There are 2 options on where the funds can go. First and most popular is investment through a regional center. A regional center is an organization authorized and regulated by the US CIS, which stands for United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, to stimulate economic growth in designated regions. Regional centers identify and source projects that qualify for the program and provide financial support either through low-interest loans, which is a loan model, or by acquiring equity in the project, which is the equity model. Structurally, a regional center functions as the hybrid of a mutual investment fund and the bank, offering affordable financing to specific projects. Second, but less popular model is the direct investment, which means launching a new project independently. Investor needs to create a new commercial enterprise, the NCE, and create 10 permanent jobs. This is a less popular model, and I will compare it in the next slide. So why regional center is more popular than the direct investment? The statistics never lie, and according to one of the latest stats, 94% of investors choose the regional center route, while only 6% choose the direct investment. The regional centers we work with have a proven track record and extensive experience in EB-5 projects and industry as a whole, significantly reducing the risk compared by launching a new project independently. Jobs creation. I want to stop and say a few words at this point to describe a little bit more about jobs creation. When you choose the direct investment route, jobs are usually calculated directly, the actual number of people working for the company. While investing via the regional center, jobs are calculated directly and indirectly via specific methodologies, sometimes complicated methodologies recognized by the government. If anyone is interested, you can Google some of the common methodologies. They're called IMPLAN, IMPLAN, or RIMS2, RIMS2. These two methodologies take into account the industrial linkages to determine the total economic effect on the project in the region, and takes into account the whole capital stack of the project and and rather than your personal investment. So the whole capital stack is a huge amount of money, and it potentially creates more jobs than just an 800,000 investment from a single investor. So having said that, regional center investment is less risky and provides a smoother path in the whole EB-5 adventure. So again, a few more detailed words about the financial requirements. So investment requirements are structured in the following way. The minimum investment amount of $800,000, it's subject to verification of the source of funds. The good news that there is no source of wealth required compared to many other residence or citizenship programs that we work with. So meaning you do not need to disclose all your assets that you have globally. We need to prove where the $800,000 comes from. Of course, it should be absolutely transparent and legal. Administrative fee. Depending on the project and the regional center, the admin fee is usually something in between $60,000 to $80,000, usually not refundable. Again, this is subject to discussion and negotiation with the regional center. Legal fees are variable and depend on the complexity of the application, complexity of the source of funds, family composition, but it usually does not exceed $35,000 to $40,000. And the government or the filing fees are something around $15,000. So overall, we speak about the $930,000 of all the expenses, where $800,000 is the returnable investment, and all the rest is in the fees. So now the timeline. How much time do we need to actually apply for EB-5 and get a permanent green card? Structurally, we can divide the application process into the three stages. The first stage is the pre-qualification, where we work with the qualified investor and their source of funds and choose the regional center. This usually takes up to 3 months, but of course, it can be done either faster or slower, again, depending on each and every individual case. The second stage is the largest stage, and I would say more complicated stage. So actually, when the investment is completed, documents are submitted to the USCIS, and usually it takes in between 6 to 36 months for the application to be approved by the government. Immigration lawyer completes the source of funds and confirms that investment can now be completed. After this, we have two options: regular consular processing or adjustment of status through the concurrent filing. Here's the difference between these two processes. Well, regular processing is for the clients who are outside of the US. After the investment is completed, the immigration lawyer files the I-526 petition. At this stage, USCIS, the government, evaluates the completed investment, verifies the source of funds, and reviews the regional center's business plan, including location and job creation methodology. The investor waits outside of the US until the petition is approved. After the approval, the application is filed, which includes various personal documents, and after this, the investor and family can move to the US, in simple words. Of course, first, before you move to the US, you go to the consulate, you obtain your entry visa. With this entry visa, you have 6 months to enter the US soil and actually adjust this entry visa to a national green card. The other option is adjustment of status through the concurrent filing. In case a client is already in the US at some other type of work or business visa. At this stage, the lawyer files the petition, the I-526 petition, and application at the same time, given that the investor is already in the US, as I've said before. The investor can apply for work and travel authorization while waiting for his petition to be approved. Even if the current visa is expired, the investor can legally stay in the US waiting for their green card to be issued. I-526 petition to be approved. After the approval is granted, the investor and family members obtain a 2-year conditional green card, which can later be adjusted to a permanent 10-year green card during the next third stage. Stage 3 is the last in EB-5 journey, where the conditions are removed and the permanent green card is issued. Usually, it might take between 12 to 18 months. 2 years after the conditional green card is issued, the lawyer files the I-8 to 9 petition. Under this petition, USCIS evaluates whether 10 jobs were created and money was kept in the project for at least 2 years. After this petition is approved, a 10-year permanent green card is issued, which can be then renewed after 10 years or can be switched to citizenship after 4 or 5 years of permanent residency in the US territory. So I'm trying not to be very boring. So please go ahead and ask your questions in Q&A session. I've tried to be very brief, but the actual process might take a little bit longer than 10 minutes of what I was describing here. You can find our contact details here in the last slide. You can scan the QR code, and you're always welcome to drop us an email or a message, and we are always happy to help. So now we are very happy to answer your questions if you have any. I understand that for some of our participants, it's like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for your information, we'll have a second session in about 6 hours from now, which is 4 p.m. GMT or 5 p.m. CET, Central European Time. And I guess it's 11 a.m. in Canada and US, Canadian and US East Coast, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you very much, Dmitro. So as you see, you have our contact info here. Do not hesitate. What you can do, we usually do Zoom meetings. So we can set up a Zoom meeting and when we can speak to you and see your personal situation, and we'll be happy to assist you. So Dmitro, there are some questions. Maybe the first one, I'll leave it to you. Could you explain EB-5 benefit to an Indian parent sending their kids to US for education?
Yeah, I can see the question. Thanks, Swat. The benefits are obvious because if your kid gets a green card under the EB-5 program, your kid can be sponsored, by the way. There is no obligation that the parent applies together with the kids. So if your kid gets a green card in the US, your kid is not considered an international student anymore. They are considered domestic students, meaning less quotas, meaning sometimes less tuition fees for the universities, and they are treated like the local domestic students. So that's the biggest benefit. The second benefit is whenever you apply through the student visa, where the student visa is expired and the education is finished, your kid cannot switch it to any other type of visa unless they have an employer who is ready to sponsor the kid and sign a contract for this job. So when the education is finished by a student visa, the kid should simply leave the country and go back to its home country. Now, under the EU's EB-5, he or she is already a permanent resident and can stay in the US and do business, continue study, apply for work, basically do anything that a permanent resident of the US can do. Hope this helps.
Thank you, Dmitro. Actually, there's another question here is, how long do I have to keep my investment? So actually, the way it works is that once you start the process, we're going to help you to collect all the documents, and then we will introduce you to regional centers, to maybe 2 or 3 regional centers who will present you with a couple of options of projects to invest in. So you will have the chance to have all the information about several projects, to ask all your questions as well, and to have clarity on the project that you want to invest in. And the projects, the timeline of the investment depends. Some of them are 3 years, 4 years. It can go up to 7 years. So you will have options, and it will be your final decision on which one to invest. So This is the way it works. So it's not one answer, but it depends on what you choose.
Okay. Another question, what's the fees difference in general? I'll take this one.
Hmm?
So it's really case by case basis. The fees can be differ on the family composition, how many people apply for the EB-5 program. But the main point of how the fees can differ is on the source of funds. Let's pretend that your source of funds is your salary. This would be the most easiest case, and the fees will be the lowest at this stage. If this, I always use the very same example of one of my clients from Europe. They've inherited a big company from their grandparents, and we had to go back in time in 1970s to prove where his grandparents earned the money to launch this company. And of course, this takes more time and more legal fees to prove the source of funds. So please reach out to us directly and we'll look into your case, not a one-to-one consultation, but two main objections is the source of funds and the family composition.
So there's another question here about the language requirement. So do we have to speak English in order to apply? Actually, the beauty, I would say, of the EB-5 program is that there is no language English proficiency requirement, meaning that you can apply and you can successfully be approved for the green card in the US, which opens up a lot of opportunities for many people, because it is actually not the case for many other programs where there is a language requirement in order to apply for residency. So in the US, they made it easier and there is no language for now.
Okay, another question. If we opt to invest directly in a company, can we do so in several rounds instead of a one-time investment? If yes, over which period does the investment qualifies? Now, I'll take this one. So generally, it's not allowed to invest in a few rounds, though the word of law does not oblige you to do it in one time. But 99.9% of the project, they will require you to transfer the whole amount in one round. It's the simple question, if I understood you correctly. If under the company, you mean any kind of company in the US, this will not work. This will only work with the with the regional center, of course. And if you opt to invest into your own company directly, please consider something that I've mentioned before about the job creation requirements, because it would be very complicated to create 10 permanent jobs. Of course, if it's not a 10 million investment and you're creating a manufacturer plant or something in a rural area and you create like 10,000 jobs, it's a different situation. But in terms of investing through the regional center, it should be an investment in one round.
And a next question is, can I include my parents in the application of the green card? And actually, the answer to that is, unfortunately, you cannot include your parents into the application. However, you can include your kids. As long as they are 21 years old or less, they can be included in your application. And maybe I can answer to another question that we have it very often is, for the investment, is an investment per person or is per family? So we can assure you that the investment that we spoke about, the 800,000 USD, is for the whole family. So let's say there's a couple, you have 2 or 3 kids under 25 years, you can include them. It will be a whole application for the whole family. However, parents are not included. Dmitry, there's another question. What is the path to citizenship to get the passports in the US?
The path to citizenship is fairly simple. 5 years of permanent residency in the US, out of which half of the period, 2.5 years, you should be residing permanently in the US. But what is more important, it's not the actual time that you spend on the US soil, it's your connection to the US, meaning you need to have a bank account, you need to have a property, leased, purchased, doesn't matter. Kids should go to school. So you should prove to the government that you tend to stay permanently in the US and you want to become a citizen and spend your life in the US. This is more important than the actual time in the US. Of course, you need to pass, I wouldn't say a language test. Of course, you need to speak English to be able to pass the interview, to pass the history test. So, of course, if you do not speak English at all, it would not be possible. So, of course, decent English, history exam, 5 years of permanent residency. And by the way, the clock for citizenship starts ticking with the issuance of the first conditional green card, not the second. So whenever you get an approval, you move to the US, you get your green card, the clock starts ticking for citizenship.
Thank you,
Another
Dmitry, for clarifying this. So to get the green card, actually, there is no language requirement. However, it is required for the citizenship.
Well, there is no language requirement, but
Yeah,
again, you need to talk to the officer. You need to
right.
explain your intentions in some way. But yeah, I don't think that's a very complicated case. So another question. Applications can be sponsored by parents. Thank you. The simple answer is yes. The application can be sponsored by parents. The source of funds can also be a loan from the bank. We actually think and ask investors to, if they opt to get a loan from the bank, that it should be a secured loan. That's a more secure path. But yes, can be sponsored by a company, by parents, sometimes by friends. It's a very flexible program. Yes.
So let me see if we have any other question. So I think we're done with the questions.
I think it's an early morning, so people are not that active. But anyways, you can see our contact details and QR codes on your slide right here. If you do have any additional other questions, if you want to schedule a call, please don't hesitate to drop us a message, WhatsApp, email, anything you're comfortable with. And I think I see some of you went what, of course, in about 6 hours, 5 hours from now. On our second session.
So thank you very much, everyone. It was really a pleasure having you. Do not hesitate to reach out, and it will be such a pleasure to assist you. We know it's really big project. Many people are doing it, and it will be a pleasure to assist you from the beginning to the end to your whole family. Thank you.
Thank you, Suat. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mitro.
Bye-bye.